Hi guys, welcome to day 30. Today we're going to be comparing and contrasting Yollie and Mrs. Moreno from Mother and Daughter. Make sure that you have your packets right with you because we are going to be going over number 5 of today's daily task. If you want to pause the video right now and go back and do the first 4, go ahead and do that and then you can come back and hit play. Today's LAQ, how can I compare and contrast Yollie and her mother? The objective is I can find meaningful similarities and differences between two characters in a literary text. The most important word in that objective for me is meaningful. It is not challenging to find similarities and differences between characters. It is challenging to find similarities and differences that are important enough to mention. So that's where that word meaningful comes into play. The standard is RL 5.3. And our daily task, again, number 5, is to compare and contrast Yollie and her mother. How are they similar and how are they different? Remember, we're really striving to find meaningful similarities and meaningful differences. In order for us to compare contrast characters, we need to first take a look at each one of them as an individual. So we have been talking about how to lasso our character traits. When we lasso character traits, we go through the text and we look for evidence about what characters look like, act like, what they say aloud, what they say in their head, and what others say about them. After we gather that evidence from the text, we can make stronger inferences about what a character is like. So we need to do that for both Yollie and Mrs. Moreno. So let's take a look at Yollie first. You see Yollie up above in the picture? That is right after the rain drenched her dress. Our first piece of the text that we are going to analyze comes from the second paragraph on page 62. Yollie was slender as a tulip, pretty, and one of the smartest kids at St. Teresa's. She was captain of crossing guards, an altar girl, and a whiz in the school's monthly spelling bees. We can tell right away what Yollie looks like from this passage. We know that she is thin. We know that she is pretty. What she acts like, we can get from the text in turquoise. So we know that she's smart. It says it right there. The author gives it to us. She's one of the smartest kids at St. Teresa's. Also, it's supported by the fact that she's a whiz in the school's monthly spelling bees. The author also tells us she was captain of crossing guard. So in order to be a crossing guard, typically you have to be cautious or safe. So we can infer that Yollie is safe or cautious. It also states that she is an altar girl. An altar girl is a position at a church. So I can make the inference that she is religious. Let's analyze the next piece of text. This is from the third paragraph on page 67. Yollie hated the idea. What would Ernie say if he saw her pitching hay at the cows? How could she go to school smelling like an armful of chickens? No, they wouldn't hire us, she said. She says something really important in this paragraph. It's important because it's a lie. So she is lying to her mother because she simply does not want to work at the fair. She doesn't want to work at the fair because she's lazy. Her thoughts in this paragraph tell us why she doesn't want to work at the fair. So we need to analyze those thoughts. In red, she says in her head that she didn't want to work at the fair because she was worried what others would say about her. What would Ernie say? How could she go to school smelling? So the fact that she's worried about what other people will say and she's worried about their judgment tell us that she is self-conscious. So when we're striving for meaningful character traits and meaningful connections, it's these really strong inferences that we're striving to make. It is more important that we know that Yollie is self-conscious than it is that we know she was thin or pretty. That is more meaningful. At this point, you should probably pause the video, go through the text, and find more evidence about Yollie that we can use to make strong inferences. Now let's go ahead on with Mrs. Moreno. We see Mrs. Moreno right in the picture. The first piece of text that we're going to analyze is the first paragraph on page 60. Yollie's mother, Mrs. Moreno, was a large woman who wore a muumuu and butterfly-shaped glasses. She liked to water her lawn in the evening and wave at lowriders, who would stare at her behind their smoky sunglasses and laugh. Right away, just like with Yollie, we're given some clear information about her physical appearance. So we know that she's a big woman and that she dresses in a loud way. So a muumuu is like the dress that is shown in the picture, except we really can't see the color. Usually a muumuu is really colorful. And obviously she wears butterfly-shaped glasses, so she wears accessories that kind of make her stand out. That's why I said dresses in a loud way. She dresses in a way in which she stands out. Others say. So in purple, we see that people were laughing at her. And she acts like, it seems like she's outgoing. She's waving at the people who are laughing at her. And also we learned that she likes plants, she likes to water plants. Now let's take a look at the next piece of the text. Drink, my children, she said loud enough for Yollie to hear. She let the water slurp into pots of coleus and cacti. Water is all you need. My daughter needs clothes, but I have no money. But I don't have no money. Sorry. This is from the 5th paragraph on page 66. What Mrs. Moreno says here is really important. She's talking to the plant and she's like satisfied because she's able to provide the plant with water. In the same thought, she's saying aloud that her daughter needs clothes, but she can't provide for her. So I can make this inference that she is self-conscious as well because she's judging herself that yes, she's able to take care of this plant, but she can't take care of her own daughter. And that's really frustrating for her. And so she's kind of judging herself in this moment, which makes her self-conscious. Next, like again, we see the whole plant connection. But in this part, you can really see the difference between something that's not important versus something that is important. Even though we see consistently that she likes plants, it's really not an important part of the story. So when we're asked questions about connections between characters, we're not going to bring up something that just doesn't seem important. So the fact that she likes plants, even though it keeps on reappearing, it's not important. But the fact that she wishes that she had more to give to her daughter, that she feels bad about that she's self-conscious, that's super important to the story. Big concepts. Compare means that we need to share similarities. Contrast means that we need to show differences. I just wanted to review that really quickly. Oftentimes when we compare and contrast, we see this Venn diagram. We're going to see it again today. So in the middle, we show the similarities, and on the outsides, the differences between the characters. So let's go ahead and get started right away. These definitely are not all of the similarities and not all of the differences. I only just brought in a little snapshot of the text. Definitely you need to go back into the text and look for more evidence for each character. But let's talk about what we saw for Yollie. We saw that Yollie was smart, responsible. She was on the crossing guard, which tells me that she was responsible. She's pretty, thin, and she's frustrated with mother's antics. We didn't have text evidence for that, but I'm sure that you picked up on that in the story, and you can find evidence for that. Mrs. Moreno. Mrs. Moreno is large. She wears loud, crazy clothes, and she's known for being funny. Again, we didn't talk about evidence for that, but that's clear throughout the story as well. There's a lot of evidence for that characteristic. So now let's talk about the similarities. They're both loyal. Throughout the story, you can definitely tell that they are there for each other. They're both self-conscious. Yollie's self-conscious about how she appears to Ernie and to her friends at school, while Mrs. Moreno is really self-conscious about how she appears to her daughter. And they are both caring. So they do a lot for each other that they do a lot for each other to spare their feelings. Like Yollie doesn't want to tell her mom certain things, and Mrs. Moreno really wants to do everything she can to provide for her daughter. Today's daily task, we're going to talk about it again. Number 5, compare and contrast Yali and her mother. How are they similar? How are they different? Support your response with at least 2 pieces of evidence. So at this point, I'm going to remind you of how we get 2 points on a short response. This is really important because even in remote learning, I want to be really clear about what I'm looking for. In order to get 2 points, you need to make sure that you're providing valid inferences. So this is where you're telling me in your own words how they're similar and how they're different. How they're different. I'm going to be looking for those statements, and those will count for your valid inferences. Also, evidence of analysis of the text. That's where you explain how your evidence supports that inference that you made. Relevant facts, definitions, concrete details, and other information from the text. So that's your evidence. And as always, don't forget that you need to be writing 5th grade quality. So go back and reread, take a look at the rubric, and make sure that you're handing in top quality responses. I will definitely take pictures. You can notify me if you need more support. And I thank you for everything. Have a wonderful day. Bye.